Thank you so much for having us today at NDC Sydney. So my name is Faten. I'm a senior solution engineer at GitHub, and today we'll be talking about coding in the cloud with GitHub Codespaces. What we will be covering today is, this is just a quick agenda. So we've got the intro, we'll start with the light version, the web editor, to the code space, a little bit more advanced from the basic settings to the advanced settings. We'll have a real GitHub demo. So this is gonna be the exciting part. Hopefully everything goes well. And then we'll wrap up with some upcoming features and summary. One more thing. I've got some GitHub swags. So we've got game and prizes. During the session, I will be asking 3 questions toward the end. And the first one to put their hands up and saying the right answers will get some GitHub swags. OK. Let's get started. It works on my machine. This is a very popular one, right? And it works on mine. It doesn't work on your machine, but I have no idea why. It might be your machine is cursed or something. Who already said that or heard someone saying it at least once before? Yeah, we all did that. We all were there. You've got the T-shirt for it as well. That's cool. So there's more and more problems we've heard before. So today we're going to be talking about code spaces, like development environment, and building local development environment is always super messy. And these are just some of the scenarios that we can cover. So we lost a whole day getting an engineer or a QA engineer maybe just to run on a project. It might be that in some cases we're running late and now we're gonna get to the latest part of our project. We're getting an engineer. We want him to get up to speed, and sometimes the team leader will be like expecting him to get up and running in no time. But in reality, they need lots of time to start building their development environment, to start getting all of the requirements, making all the installations that might work, might not be successful from the beginning. And then after that, they get to the point where, OK, I can start working, I can start writing code. The second one, can I have a 16-core machine or whatever spec that you want? Who works in a company where you can ask the IT department, I want this super powerful machine maybe, and they will give it to you in a day, 2, 3, 4. That's lucky, that's super lucky. Not 4 weeks maybe. So that's good if you can get it that quickly. So the process is always very slow when it comes to requesting these machines. And the last one is like, I have no idea what I've installed on my machine. I got a new machine late last week, as you can tell. No stickers, nothing. It's still very new. But I can relate to that as like my previous machine. I had it for 4 years. And I admit very easily, I can say, I have no idea what I have on that machine. All of everything, if you want to say. So these are some of the problems or like the common scenarios that lots of the developers face. This introduction and talking about all of these problems that the developers have, the idea here is that the developers are not here to go and manage 4 different versions of Java or Python or whatever. This is just an example, but they are here to write code. They want to be productive. They want to be adding value. They want to go and create new features for their customers. They don't want to have to do all of this work. And that's where we're going to get into Codespaces. So that will lead us to a quick definition for Codespaces. So Codespaces is an online development environment. It's hosted by GitHub and powered by Visual Studio Code. So what we want to do is we want to be able to remove any friction from the software development process. We want to make it easier for these developers so they can focus on writing code and not having to manage their environment. We want to get to the point where you click a button and you'll be able to contribute to another project, or not the one that you're working on and you've got everything already set up, a totally new one, to be able to contribute in a very short time, in no time if possible. So delivering software quickly, reliably, and safely is really at the heart of any technology or digital transformation as well as organization performance. So we spoke about the problems. We gave a quick definition for Codespaces. I wanted to highlight these three main features here, and the first one is the quick launch. As previously with all the problems, it was so hard to be able to get a new machine up and running so you can test things. But here you've got with Codespaces a very quick launch of your environment. So you can set up a development environment with a very simple operation. So new members of the team will be able to start developing and start being productive in no time. We spoke about requesting machines from the IT department, and here with Codespaces, you've got like lots of flexibility with the machine spec that you're using. And at the same time, you can update and make changes to these specs later on, not just initially when you create your Codespace, these are my spec. I can also go and make changes later on and upgrade it, for example. And the last one is uncompromising customization. You've got lots of Visual Studio extensions that will be automatically installed on your Codespace. So there's lots of customization that can be done here. And you can also synchronize your editor settings across multiple, like, between your Codespace, your Visual Studio Code, all of these ones. So you can have all of your settings synchronized as well. And between tablet, laptop, all of your different devices as well. Before we start deep diving into Codespace, I know that I wanted to cover very quickly what we call GitHub Web Editor. Web Editor and the Codespaces, they got released around the same time, and some people had a little bit of confusion between these two. I'm going to be very honest. So what my plan is to do some demos. When demos don't work, I've got videos. So I've got a plan B ready when things don't go the way that we want them to go. So I will try and see how we go with that. So a quick one for the GitHub Web Editor. So if you go to any GitHub repo, whatever it is, and then you click on the dot, or if you want to open the web editor in the same tab, or if you want to open it in a new tab, you can put the greater sign so it will open in a new tab. So this is a very light, you can see like you've got the VS Code UI, but it's a very light web edition where I'll be able to go make some changes, a little bit richer user experience than what you get with GitHub, as like if you go and check or try the pencil and then try to edit it within GitHub. So it's a little bit better. You'll be able to, for example, go and add some extensions. If I want to add extensions, they have to be like the web extensions, not everything. Some of the extensions will be available for me as like out of the box within the web editor, like the pull request, the theme. Like, for example, if you see the GitHub Copilot, I can't install it on a web editor. I need to install it on a Codespace, for example. If you're more interested in Copilot, so my colleague Mish, she has a session later today as well in room number 2. So the web editor is serverless, so there's no compute, nothing backing it up. It's just a web editor. You'll be able to, if you want to make some changes, go push them back to GitHub. So you'll be able to do these things. What you will notice is that debugging is not going to be possible on a web editor, and that's because you don't have the compute behind it. So the debugging, as well as like running any commands on the terminal, will not be available for us, just because it's not, there's no VM backing it up. Okay. So that was a quick one for the web editor. And the next one is creating a Codespace. So what we can do is, with the Codespace, we can either, like from the web editor, go ahead and create it, like to continue working, and I'll have the option to create a Codespace from there, or from a repo, I can go and create a Codespace from here. So the Codespace will have VM behind it. That means that I can create, let's say for now we'll create it just from the, with the default settings, but later on I will show some of the settings that we can create it. So here you can, the first thing that you will notice maybe is that it takes a little bit longer than the github.dev. The github.dev run in no time because there's no compute, nothing behind it. With this one, it takes a little bit longer because there is a VM that's getting launched for you. So it does take a little bit longer. Another thing that you'll notice is the URL. So for the previous one, for the web editor, it's just github.dev, your org, your repo name, whatever the URL is. For the Codespace, it's a little bit more complicated URL, if you want to say, at the top. And here we go. I've got my Codespace up and running. I've got the same as what I get in the light web editor. On top of that, I've got a working terminal, so I can go ahead and work with the terminal. I've got what we call a default configuration file, which is our dev container. We'll talk a little bit more about it later, but you can see here that by opening my Codespace, I already got Python, Node.js, Docker, and more, like, you know, all of these ones coming out of the box with my machine. And if I go to the debug one, I can go ahead and debug my application as well. So this is a very simple Node.js app, so I can go ahead, for example, and start it if I want from here. So we can do all of that from the terminal. I can go and debug. I can add more extensions. So if I want to add the GitHub Copilot extension, I will be able to add it, as well as other extensions. The other ones is, so if I want to go ahead and npm start my application, I can go and start it. So we'll be talking more a little bit later about the details that we have from the Codespace, but this is just to show you how quick we can get it up and running with the out-of-the-box settings that we have. If I go to here, I'll be able to see my files as well. You can see that the application is up and running, and I can open it in browser. So this is a super simple Node.js application that's now it's connecting to the forwarded port that we have. We will cover a little bit more about the ports and the settings and just the high-cost formula. So I was able to get it up and running in really quick time. Okay, so let's go back to our slides. So these were my Plan B video. If it's going to launch. So the first one we saw the web editor. The second one we saw was the dev container with the out-of-the-box one. And then this one, I just want to show you how we can generate this dev container. So the same as like if I go to my Codespaces, and then from here I can go and use the Codespace with the main or with the default settings, or I can go and configure and create my Codespace. When I configure it, that means I will have the option to choose which branch I want to run it on. We're in APAC, so the region I want it to be Southeast Asia, and then I can choose the machine type. So you've got 2, 4, 8, 16, and 32 as well. So there's lots of different machine types to get your VM up and running. Another one is that for all of the machine learn ML engineers, you've got also GPU, which is coming soon as like more machine types and like bigger ones. You can see here that it's building the container, and I've got it my Codespace up and running. So this is going to be the same as what we saw previously. You might find that it's taking a little bit of time to get up and running, but at the same time, if you compare it to running things on your local machine and going and having to do things, it's a big, like, you know, there's a massive improvement here. So you can see that this one is having the out of the box. If I go and check if it has Terraform version, it doesn't have Terraform installed. So what I can do is I can go and add. So I'm adding my development container configuration file, which is the configuration file for my Codespace. And I'm going and like for this one, I'm looking for the Azure Terraform one, and then getting all the different options and settings for it. And then as like additional features, looking for the Terraform TF-lint. So I'm choosing all of these settings that I want, and then I'm fine with the latest version, for example. And this will build my dev container, which is a JSON file that will be used for my Codespace. Now, what's the goal of having these ones is like next time, or you've got another developer, or you would like to go and you've got an infrastructure as code engineer who's coming to work on this, they already have what they need on that machine, on that code space. So they don't have, you can see that, oh, this is gonna take time now because I'm going and I'm rebuilding this dev container. And for the first time, it is going to take time. But the benefit here is that the next time you've got another engineer or like someone working on infrastructure is coming to work on it, they already have Terraform up and running. So they've got what they need to make it easier for them. Lots of time as developer, your onboarding journey might not be maybe the best, but you want to make sure that you're making it easier and better for whoever's coming next or like after you. So they will not have to go through the same. You will try to get things ready for them so they can get up and running in no time. So you can, if you would like to go and check it, you'll be able to get to the log and how it's building my dev container again. So this is not here using different VM, it's still the same one, it's just rebuilding that dev container for us. So the first one we saw was like using the dev container out of the box one. The second one, we were able to add some customization. This was just an example, the Terraform one. You can see now I've got my dev container JSON file with all the Terraform details that I've got here. And this is just an example. So you can use whatever extensions, whatever tooling or things that you need. And now if I go ahead and, for example, like check the Terraform version on this one, I can see that I've got a Terraform here up and running. Cool. Next. Here we go. So I spoke a little bit about the dev container and how we were building one, but here is just an example. You can have lots of different configuration options in your dev container, but here is just a quick sample that you can use. So for example, you've got the first part where you've got the display name, your container. It's like you can have lots of customization with the Docker details that you're using. You've got under the customization, you've got all of the different VS Code options that you have. In addition, under the customization part, you can also have all of the access control. So that means if from my code space, I want to give it read access, or let's say read-write access to the issues, to the pull request, to GitHub Actions. So you can do all of these access permission from the dev container here. Previously, it used to be in the UI when we first started with Codespaces, but now this is deprecated from the UI because we want to make everything configuration as code. So having it in your dev container is going to make more sense to have it stored in the code. And then you've got the VS Code extension settings where you can specify all of the different extensions you want to use and the post create one, so to see what you want to run after you create your code space. So it's a JSON file. Lots of people might be familiar with that, and it's just an example here. OK. So the next one, we can go through it as well. So here what I'm trying to do is, at the beginning we saw the dev container out of the box. We generated a dev container. Now if I go ahead and push or commit my dev container to the repo itself, as in the repo I have already my dev container sitting there with my code. That means that if anyone is going to come and want to work on my repo, want to work on this project, they will have all of these settings, all of these extensions, whatever they need, they will have it already available once they start their code space. We spoke at the beginning about how quick you'll be able to go and contribute to someone else's project, and that's the same as like if you're working on a specific project and from an inner source perspective, and then, okay, you've another team or like totally different department is working on something else, and you want to go and contribute to that, you want to be able to do it quickly, because how many times you were like, okay, I'm very close, I can go and fix something for them, even if it's a spelling mistake or whatever, but for me to get everything up and running so I can make that contribution, I'll be like, no, thank you. I'm done here. I'm not gonna bother. I'm not gonna go that extra step to do it. So this is where, for these type of scenarios, it's gonna make it easier. I've got my dev container. I've got my all environment ready for you. You just need to go and work on it. So for this one, the one that had the dev container already in the repo, you can see in the extensions, it has, like, for example, the SQL tools. So it has the extension, it has the database connection already, like all in my setup for the code space. I can go and write a select statement, select all from the hierarchies, which is the one that we were displaying in the Node.js, and then I can get my results. So I can do all of that within my code space. We're getting to a little bit more complicated, step by step. Started with the editor, out of the box, creating the dev container, committing it to the repo so other people can benefit from that. They can use it as well. Okay. So now that it's getting a bit more advanced, maybe, another very common scenario is, like, in real life, you will be using maybe like UI, and you've got some backends, and you've got, like, you know, some secrets or personal access token that you want to work with. And this is where you want to be able to work with these secrets in a secure way with Codespaces. This is not super long, but just to show you how you can create Codespaces secrets. So where you can create these secrets, you can use them in your Codespace to make it easier for you. So the first one I'm showing is at the user level, where I can go to the settings, Codespaces, and then from here go and create a new Codespace secret that I want to use. So this can be like a personal access token. It might be if you want to connect to a private VPN that you need, like, you know, these tokens. So you'll be able to storing it here as well. So you can do it at the user level. Here I'm showing it at the repo level, where the same, like, you go to the repo, you go to the secrets tab, it's next to the actions and dependabot, and you'll be able to work on your repo secret, as well as this. So this is the repo one. It's very simple, just adding your the name of the secret and the value of it. And the same thing can be done at the organization level. So at the org level, you'll be able to go to your security secrets, create one, same as the previous one. So there's nothing like fancy here about it. It's just to show you that all of that is possible. You can specify what are the repos, because when you're creating a secret at the org level, you don't want to give everybody access to it. You want to make sure, like, maybe these are the repos that you want them to access it. So I'm creating a secret, my secret, and just selecting the repos that we want to give them access to, or all of the private and internal repos under my organization. And then from here, once you create the secret, if you go and launch a new code space, you'll be able to start using or, like, accessing these secrets. So I'm just here going to create a new code space so we can see how we can access the secrets. But in the meantime, to let you know, because most likely when we talk about secrets, the first thing that comes to mind is, like, is it encrypted? Is it, like, you know, secure? Are we using it in a secure way? So all of that is secured, and it's all encrypted. So they're all encrypted environment variables that are used, and GitHub uses, like, what we call the Lipsodium sealed box to encrypt these secrets, and then they will decrypt them once you're using them within your code space. So there's lots of different scenarios, but this will be useful as one once you start working with secrets. So here, now that my code space is up and running, I'm just doing a quick echo of the my secret to see how you can access it. Okay. It's a lot, I know, that we covered, a big range in a quick time. That's why some of these ones will come handy, these videos. Now, we're talking about secrets, about automation as well. The next thing would be like, okay, you showed us lots of things. There's lots of click here, click here, click here. And your integration team or automation team would like to automate lots of these ones via scripts. So we've got CLI support if you want to go get for like the user himself. If you want to get the list of the code spaces, you can like create, stop, delete, do all of these different activities on the code space as well. You can SSH to it. On top of that, so these are the normal commands that you can use within the CLI. On top of that, what we have is for the organization owner, what they can do via the CLI or the API is to be able to get the list or like stopping or deleting code spaces under their organization. So if they want to go and admin the code spaces under that belongs to their organization, they will be able to do that as well via the CLI. So this has been, the part with the org has been 2-3 months ago, has been released. Okay, now we're still talking about a little bit of admin and for the organization and the code spaces. So the next one is talking about, from a policy perspective, being able to get, and governance, to be able to get more restriction, to make sure that you're using code spaces in the right way. Like, so the first one is, as an org owner, I can specify I want everybody to use code spaces, everybody's allowed to use it, go ahead and go crazy, or I want only the members of my organization without the external collaborators, or like if we have contractors, or I want anyone who's working on my organization to be able to use it. So they will have the option to specify these permissions, as well as when it comes to the policies. So they can say, I just want them to be able to use 2-core and 4-core, because the other ones, like, you know, it gets more expensive. We want to be a little bit responsible here. Or, for example, back to security, when it comes to the port visibility, we saw how we were running it on port 3000, and that can be private, as like, you know, only for me, or private within the organization. So whoever has access to my GitHub organization will be able to access that URL. Or in some scenarios, you might want to send that URL to someone outside your organization so they can go and test it. You can make it public. So you have the option to, as organization owner, to say, I don't want them to be able to use it public. It has to be private, and private within my organization only. So you'll have these options. The last two is like, I know we all sometimes start some machines and then we'll forget to shut them down. I'm one of them, so I always I'm so good at starting one, but remembering to shut it down might not be always on my top to-do list. So having a maximum idle time is really key. As like 30 minutes, the machine has been idle, it's gonna go and shut down. The same for the retention period. So you can specify, I want it to be 10 days, I want it to be 30 days, and then that will help to make sure that you're using it in a responsible way, and at the same time, from a cost perspective, we don't want to, like, it will be great if you start using it all the time, but to make really good value of it, you want to be able to use it in good way. So the default idle time, as well as the second one around the code space limit, the spending limit. So you'll be able to say, I want them to be able to spend only, this is my budget, and that's what we have to stay, this is our budget, we have to stay within the limit. Or the benefit of being a GitHub employee is that I've got it for me as like unlimited. I can use it as much as I want. Okay. We covered a lot, policies, admin, CLI, billing, all of that. We spoke about the dev container and how we were generating it manually. And when I had to rebuild the dev container, it had to be manual. And what we have here is a feature called container prebuild. So the idea with the container prebuild is that it will help making sure that that manual prebuild of my dev container is automated. And that automation is using GitHub Actions. So why do we, like, what's the reasoning behind it, or why do we need it? This will make starting my code space, once I have pre-build and my dev container there, it will make it way faster. So the out of the box will have a little bit of things that we need. We can have customization for the dev container. We can have a pre-build to make sure that this is gonna be faster once a new developer will come and start working on it. And as you can see, like you can configure it at the branch level. You've got the different triggers as like I want it to be, we can run a quick video here as well. It's just a quick video to show how to configure the pre-build for a specific repo. So once you go to a repo, you can go and set up your pre-build. The pre-build is gonna help to make it faster once we've got the code space ready. So I can specify the branch, I can specify my dev container, and then I can trigger which one I want to use. I want to use on every push, or I want to use every time someone will go and push to this branch. I want the pre-build to happen to rebuild my developer dev container, or I can choose the region, and then as well as like if anything goes wrong, who to notify. So once the pre-build is set up, it will make it way easier to start your code space once you have the pre-build. You can see here, this is because it's running GitHub action behind it, so it will take time. I've got like fast forwarding that you will see. It's not like super fast forward, but you'll be able to see that this is doing a lot, and it took a lot. But this is because this is the first time that it is getting that pre-build. But this is what's gonna help my code space get up and running in really quick time and have everything that I have in my dev container on that machine. So this is just the fun of watching something fast forward now. But just to show you that like 30 minutes, you're not gonna, I gave you a little bit of pain of waiting, not the whole 30 minutes, but a little bit of waiting for it to go green, but to get the idea that it will take time the first time you run it, but that means that everybody later on is not gonna have to wait that 30 minutes. Okay, so now we're getting to the exciting part. This is running the same one. So we saw the pre-build. That's gonna make it easier. Now my goal is to show GitHub as like GitHub, the website, up and running. Let's see how that will go. So you can see this is our GitHub one. All the demos were done in the browser. So for this one, I'm gonna try to use Code Insider, which is just the latest and greatest version of Visual Studio Code. So I'm gonna start by creating a new code space. So this is GitHub. This is the repo name, the org name, all the different branches. So we've got my master branch. You can see here, for example, they have more than one dev container. I'm gonna use the default one. Let's stick to the default. And now we're gonna see how long this is gonna take. So this is GitHub. And I'm using this internet, so whatever goes wrong might go wrong, but let's see. So far, so good. So this is GitHub code. So this is real GitHub code that we're opening in a code space. Yeah, okay, so that's the first step. So far, so good. So we've got it up and running, which is good. It didn't take very long, right? Like it wasn't that crazy. I'll say 20 seconds, if more or less, maybe. I'm just gonna make a very simple code change so you guys know that this is really yeah, okay. So super simple change to get it up and running, and then we'll see how it goes. So the first thing that I want to say is that I am not a developer. I am not from the product team. And GitHub is like 15 years of code. So 15 years of code, which is, if you say to me, you're going to be touching code that people who have been working on for 15 years, I'll be like shaking. I'm like, I don't want to even get close to it. And with Codespaces, like I was able, first of all, to get it my environment up and running. I didn't have to go and see what do I have to install and what extensions and what dependencies and all of that. I didn't have to go through all of that. I will give it a few minutes to go up and running, but you can see that I'm still here. I still have it in the browser. So once it's ready, we'll get back to it. But in the meantime, I wanted to show you a blog post. So highly, highly recommended to go and check it out. So this blog post talks about the GitHub engineering team, how they moved 15 years, Ruby, and all of that crazy things that don't even know what they have over there. The code is not really what's important, but they were able to move all of that into Codespaces. So they went through lots of different phases to get to the point where you were able to see my Codespace opening GitHub in, I'll say 15 seconds. I'm not sure how much it took. I didn't want to put a timer because it might, with all the things that can go wrong, it can go crazy and it can go brilliant. So very highly recommended to go and check it out, and the journey that they went through to get to that point. At the beginning, they had it like 45 minutes, and then from 45 minutes, they got it down to 5 minutes to get the development environment up and running, and now it's like a couple of seconds. It's whatever it is, it's still under 30 seconds that they were able to do it. So this is one of the big ones, and if you go and, so this is the repo that I just opened. If you go and see the number of commits that they have over there, like over 1 million commits on that repo. You can see that, like over 1 million commits. And if you even check, like, you know, the date on some of these files, you've got one like 5 years, it's like 15 years. Like, you know, the log is like 15 years. So that's why I'm like, if you say to me, I'm doing that, I'll be like, I'm not in the product team, and I was able to do something like that in super short time. Now, so this is not a like a SPA or something that I just put a screenshot for you here to see. But like, this is really GitHub up and running. So if I go and try to log in as a user, Mona Lisa is our favorite user, you'll be able to see. And of course, we're very important to do 2FA because Mona Lisa is a good employee who does follow security advice. So you can see that this is a development environment. I can remove that for now, but this is my development environment where I have GitHub up and running. If I go to Mona Lisa, one of her public repos, so I like to contribute to open source. So this is Mona Lisa's open source project. I can go and create a new branch, and we've got something. Let's see it more. Okay, here we go. And then I'll go to one of my files. So it's a development environment. So if you see all of the errors and find things, is fine. If I go, this is the file. I would like to make changes to this file. I don't want to be typing way too much with everybody's watching, so I'll try to do as less as possible. But I was able to commit here. I can go create a pull request because we like to follow GitHub workflow and good practices. So we don't make changes straight to the main. I can choose my NDC branch, try to create a pull request. So you can, like, I just want to show you that this is up and running. This is real GitHub. It's not just a page that I replaced and put NDC on it. It's like a proper environment. I've got my pull request created, and for example, let's see. Okay, so my pull request is up and running, lots of things happening. And then as another example, so these are the emojis that are already available for you when you create an issue, pull request, comment, any of that. And there's not much exciting things here. So let's say I would like to go, and this is gonna be too much, but let's say I would like to go and try to add more to that. And you can see it's a Ruby file, and all what I'm gonna try to do. I can't even scroll now with everybody's watching. All what I'm gonna try to do is add a new emotions that we've got. You can add the koala. I have to spell it, but And we can also add a Australian flag. Let's go back and refresh. Okay. So let's see how that will go. So, okay, that didn't take long. Here we go. Yeah, that worked. So I can zoom in, and you can see that I was able to add a little bit of Australian flavor to our pull request images because we're here, we're in Sydney. So, and I'm not a developer. I'm not from the product team. I'm very, very far away from that. And I was able to do it, like, you know, in a very short time. And that will show you, for a developer to join a new company and their onboarding process and like that journey that they have to go through to get to the point where, okay, I can make a change. I can, even if they ask me to make a small change, I can go ahead and do it with that. That's what like Codespaces is here for, to make that happen. Back to our slides. So another one around the same use case. So if you go and check the blog post, you'll be able. No, GitHub worked, but my slides are not working. Okay. So we've got like over 600 GitHub engineers fully using Codespaces. So Codespaces is their day-to-day development environment. GitHub, the one that I showed on the repo is like 13, 14 gig, but on disk it's like 82 gigabytes, which is a lot. Like even the 13 gig, the GitHub repo, to be able to clone it, how long that will take, or download it? It will take ages. And we were able to do it like in very, like it's still considered a couple of minutes, all the changes that we were able to do. And the last one, they had a long journey. They shared the journey in the blog post. So they talk about it, how they moved from 45 minutes to 5 minutes and then down to a couple of seconds. It's a really good one, highly recommended. Okay, so we spoke about lots of the existing features from Codespaces. I just wanted to highlight a couple from the roadmap and upcoming features. The first one is, so you saw me using Visual Studio Code. You saw it in the like Codespaces in the browser. So one of the next one is what's gonna be coming is the JetBrains support. So this is coming as well in the future. We wanna meet developers where they are. If they're comfortable to be developing here, we wanna be able to meet them there. We don't wanna have to force developers to, oh, this is your IDE. You have to use this and this and this. We wanna be able to give them that option of where they would like to work. We saw some of the policies there where you can specify the machine types, you can specify the port visibility as like public, private, or private within my org. So on top of that, we're adding more and more policies for the organization owner that will help them from a security perspective as well. So you can say, this is not very soon, but one of the things is like the allowed region, as like I'm here in Australia, I want to be able to say I want my developers to use like Southeast Asia for APAC, or like, you know, to specify the region and all of these details, as well as another big one is to be able to clone only on Codespaces, and that will help a lot, not to have lots of different code sitting on developers' machines, and this machine might end up somewhere else. The other one, talking about security as well, is the private VPN gateways. This is going to be at the beginning for people who are using Azure VNet, so they will be able to integrate their code space with their whatever they have resources sitting on Azure. And I covered a little bit of the upcoming features, but there's a lot and way more exciting and new things coming at GitHub Universe. So this is our annual conference. It's 9 of November. For us, it will be like 10/11, I can say, because this is 9/10 US based, but it will be all free, all available as well virtually. So you don't have to be in San Francisco to see all of these exciting things. Okay, we covered a lot. Time for some prizes. I've got 3 prizes. It's a small group, so I'll say the first one to put hands up will go for it. Does that work? Yeah? Okay, first one. What's the name of the Codespace configuration file? No one. Ah, that's disappointing. We've got some prizes. Yeah?
Container config?
No. Yeah. Yeah. Yes? here. Okay, next one. What's the maximum number of cores available for Codespaces? Yes, we've got the second. Sorry, I can't go there, so he will do it. But yeah, we've got the second winner for today. And the last question, at what level can you create a Codespace secret? Yeah.
Or repo user.
Yes, correct. We've got 3 winners. Yeah. Okay, cool. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot for joining us today. I just want to do a quick summary of what we covered. We saw lots of things from Codespaces, very light web editor, dev container, the pre-build to help with the speed to get the Codespace up and running, all the different billing policies, CLI support, secrets. So we covered a lot, and we want to solve the problems that we were talking about at the beginning. We want to make it easier. We want to have someone from an inner source perspective being able to go to a different team and be able to contribute and start working and writing code in no time. These are some of the feedbacks from customers and users who have been using Codespaces. I really like the one where the laptop battery, and this is something very precious to lots of the developers, right? Like you want your battery to last longer. You don't want to be putting all that heavy lifting on your local environment. So if you can push it to the cloud, go and do the coding in the cloud, it will make it easier for you. And at the end, so this is a QR code. If you want to scan it, it will take you to a gist file with all of the resources. I will be also sharing my slides on that file as well. So it will have the blog post, it will have some of the examples, it will have documentation, all of the resources that I wanted to share with you today. And I think we've got some time for Q&A. Yes.
Yep, just
Yes.
let me
Oh, sorry.
microphone.
Okay, cool.
Here first.
Hi, amazing presentation.
Thank you.
So my question is, for organizations which have on-prem infra, will Codespaces be allowed to use on-prem infra, or are you guys tied to a cloud provider?
Yeah, so with the private one, we do have some encrypted tunneling for them to be able to use Codespaces. We're doing also lots of work on that to make it easier for them to configure it, because you're not going to be able to use everything that's only available for you in Codespaces. You are going to need that. We've got the documentation, and if I'm not wrong, one of the links from that gist is to cover that. So you'll be able to get a lot more details as well. Before we take the second question, I just want to say we have some swags, some stickers as well that will be at the door when you're leaving. So you'll be able to get some GitHub stickers. You can't be in a GitHub session without some stickers, right? Yeah.
Thanks for the presentation, pretty good. So can we choose the VM type in form of the what operating system
Yes.
is it running? So we can run on Mac?
So you've got, I didn't want to put it, but in the, so each one will have different pricing. I didn't want to put that, but you'll be able, I'm still, let me see if I can open it. Or maybe I should go to my gist will be better. I'll try to keep that. So you'll be able to get the billing from here. And so you can see like these are, for first of all, it's like on the compute and the storage as well. And you'll be able to get all of the details as like how much it's going to cost.
So we can run on Mac?
As Codespaces.
Can the code space itself be the VM? Can it be
Yeah.
on a Mac, or is it just Ubuntu?
I don't think so as well.
Is there any plan in the roadmap for supporting like mobile developers where they have to connect a device rather than just opening the browser?
Yeah, I know that they are working for mobile development support in the future. I don't have like specific dates of when things will be happening, but there are plans to get better support for mobile applications like iOS as well as Android. The other one here is we've got what we call the calculator, so that will help usually with the code spaces. So you can say, I would like to be able to use these, how many core, how many, and that will give you a details of, and how many developers, how many weekly. So kind of like helping you planning on how much you're going to be spending with Codespaces. Anything else? Okay, cool. We'll give you maybe another 10 minutes. Free. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Cheers.